It began on a quiet afternoon in Metropolis, the kind of day when even danger seemed to rest. Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter, had just returned from covering a story about a new Oscorp Industries research partnership between Metropolis and New York City. What he didn't know was that this story would lead him to a destiny far beyond even the stars he came from. In a gleaming lab under the LexCorp-Oscorp joint facility, scientists worked on a classified project, genetically enhanced arachnids, creatures designed to study cellular evolution. Clark's instincts told him something was off. He lingered after hours, curious, following the faint hum of machines and a flashing red light deep within the lab's core. Then he saw it, a containment pod shattered. The scientists had gone home. The alarms were silent. And from the shadows, a single radioactive spider, small but pulsing with unnatural energy, crawled across the floor. Clark's eyes narrowed. His X-ray vision traced the creature's glowing internal systems. He leaned closer, analyzing its cellular mutations, unaware that destiny was creeping toward him. Then it leapt. The bite sank into his skin. For the first time in years, Clark felt pain. Not from kryptonite, not from magic, but from something else, something alien. His heat vision flared uncontrollably, melting a steel beam above him. He staggered, clutching his arm as his veins burned with crimson light. The spider fell, disintegrating instantly under his body's solar energy. Clark's breathing grew heavy. His Kryptonian biology was reacting, mutating, adapting. By the time he reached the daily planet, the world seemed sharper. He could hear heartbeats through walls, sense vibrations in the air, even predict falling debris before it hit the ground. Something had changed within him. That night, as he tried to rest, Clark dreamed. Not of Krypton, not of flying, but of webs, vast, endless webs stretching across galaxies. In the center, a figure with 8 red eyes whispered a single word, connection. He awoke drenched in sweat, his hands tingling. Instinctively, he clenched his fists, and white, sticky filaments burst from his palms, shooting across the room and sticking to the ceiling. He stared at them in disbelief. Was this a mutation? A fusion of Kryptonian DNA and Earth's radiation? Or something far more complex? Something intelligent? The next morning, Perry White stormed into the newsroom, yelling about strange sightings in downtown Metropolis. A Spider-Man swinging between skyscrapers, moving faster than human eyes could follow. Clark froze. Could there be another? Someone else bitten by the same spider? He rushed to the rooftop, leaping into the sky, and realized something horrifying. He no longer needed to fly. He could swing. A web shot out instinctively, anchoring to a distant building. He soared through the air, momentum building, adrenaline mixing with awe. He laughed, then stopped mid-swing as he realized what he'd done. He wasn't using heat vision or flight or super strength. He was using something entirely new. But as thrilling as it was, there was something darker beneath it. For every ounce of power he gained, he could feel another part of himself changing. His Kryptonian control, his perfect, godlike balance was slipping. That night, Lois noticed the difference. His pupils dilated faster, his tone colder, his reflexes inhuman. He brushed it off as exhaustion, but deep down, he felt something crawling beneath his skin. Later, in his fortress of solitude, he ran tests on himself. Results showed a complete fusion between his Kryptonian cells and a mutagenic human genome. He wasn't just Superman anymore. He was becoming something else. His powers began merging. His flight now intertwined with web-like propulsion. His heat vision evolved into a focused biolaser pulse. And a strange new spider sense warned him seconds before any attack. But with these gifts came visions of predators lurking in shadows, of webs connecting worlds, and of a figure whispering through them all, "You're one of us now, Kal-El." Clark stood silent beneath the glowing crystals of his fortress. The last son of Krypton, no longer alone. But was that a blessing or a curse? He looked at his hands, glowing faintly red and blue under the fortress light. If power had always been his gift, Was this the moment it became his burden? As the Arctic winds howled outside, a small vibration tickled the edge of his mind. Something or someone was calling him from beyond the web of worlds. And this was only the beginning. Days passed, but Clark Kent was no longer the same man. His senses buzzed with tension, like invisible threads connecting him to everything. The heartbeat of Metropolis, the hum of its towers, even the faint rhythm of its people's fear. The spider within him had awakened something ancient, something that even Kryptonian science couldn't define. He began patrolling differently, no longer soaring like a god in the sky, but swinging like a predator in the night. The people saw it too. The newspapers called him the Spider of Steel. Lois noticed the difference first. Clark's movements were faster, sharper, too precise, almost instinctive. His smile had faded, replaced by a quiet stillness that unsettled her. He barely spoke anymore. Every sound, every flicker of movement, pulled at his attention like vibrations through a web only he could feel. One evening, he confronted a LexCorp heist downtown. But this time, he didn't hover above the criminals. He descended. Webs lashed from his hands, pinning the thieves to walls before they could blink. One tried to escape. Clark didn't use his heat vision. He shot a line of webbing and yanked the man backward with such force that the air cracked like thunder. The man begged for mercy, and for a moment Clark hesitated. He could feel his spider instincts urging him to strike, to protect, but with violence, not mercy. When it was over, the criminals lay cocooned, trembling in terror. Clark stood above them, chest heaving, realizing something horrifying. He had enjoyed it. Later, back in the Fortress of Solitude, he searched his genetic matrix. The readings were worse. His DNA was evolving, rewriting itself. His Kryptonian cells weren't rejecting the mutation. They were embracing it. The spider wasn't just a parasite. It was a symbiont, a living force that amplified his powers while feeding on his emotions. Then came the voice again, soft, insidious, whispering through his mind like silk. You feel it, don't you? The web between worlds. The call of the Spider-Verse. The crystals around him flickered. For a split second, he saw flashes, hundreds of realities, each connected by shimmering threads. In one, Peter Parker swung across New York. In another, Miles Morales faced his destiny. And at the center of them all, something monstrous. A spider god with fangs the size of suns, gazing directly at him. Kal-El gasped. He saw the web stretching toward him, pulling him into something larger, ancient, and endless. Join us, child of Krypton, the voice said. Your power completes the pattern. He stumbled backward. The fortress trembled as energy surged through his veins. He blasted into the sky, leaving trails of red and white light behind him, escaping the call echoing in his head. But it followed him, everywhere. When he landed in Smallville, seeking calm, he found something else. The air shimmered, and from the shadows, another figure emerged, clad in red and blue. A man with web shooters on his wrists and sorrow in his eyes. Peter Parker. He looked at Clark as though he'd seen a ghost. Kal-El, Peter said, voice trembling. You shouldn't be here. The bite. It wasn't meant for you. Clark's eyes narrowed. You know about it. Peter nodded grimly. That spider wasn't of Earth. It carried a fragment of the web of life, the same power that binds all spider totems across the multiverse. But your Kryptonian biology, it's amplifying it. You're tearing through the web itself. Clark clenched his fists. Then tell me how to stop it. Peter hesitated. You can't. The web doesn't like imbalance. It'll try to fix it. And when it does, it might destroy you to restore the pattern. A chill ran through Clark. The idea that his existence could unravel reality itself was unbearable. He turned away, but his spider sense flared violently, warning him of something coming. The sky split open. Through a rift of glowing silk descended three monstrous beings, pale, gaunt figures with fangs and glowing eyes. The Inheritors. Peter's face went pale. They've come for you. The Inheritor leader smiled, his voice like venom. At last, the perfect prey. Kryptonian flesh infused with the totem. You are the ultimate meal. Clark's instincts exploded. In an instant, he launched forward, faster than thought, slamming the first inheritor into the ground so hard it cratered the earth. The second lunged. He caught it midair, webbing it to a tractor and shattering it with a single punch. Peter swung into action beside him, webbing the third. For a moment, they fought as one. Two legends from different worlds, united by instinct and purpose. But as Clark's blows grew faster, harder, Peter saw something terrifying. Clark's eyes had turned scarlet. His veins glowed with crimson light. He wasn't fighting the inheritors. He was feeding on them. The fortress voice echoed again, almost gleeful. The spider of steel. You are becoming the apex predator. Peter shouted, Clark, stop. You're losing yourself. But Clark couldn't hear him anymore. His body pulsed with light, his webs burning with solar fire. He roared, a sound that shook the horizon, and the inheritors disintegrated in a blinding flare of energy. When it was over, the field was silent. Only the smell of ozone remained. Peter stood back, terrified, staring at the being before him. Not Superman. Not Spider-Man. Something else. Clark turned to him slowly, his voice lower, colder. The web wants me gone, Peter. But what if I rebuild it? My way. Peter stepped back. Clark, that's not you talking. Clark smiled faintly. Maybe not. But maybe this is who I was meant to become. As he lifted into the sky, his web lines trailing behind like cosmic threads, Peter whispered a name under his breath. The spider of steel. And somewhere, far beyond the stars, the web itself began to tremble. The world trembled under a sky woven with light. Metropolis no longer had a sun, it had a web. A network of glowing energy lines stretched across the heavens, pulsing like veins of a living organism. At its center floated Clark Kent, no longer the man Earth once knew. The spider of steel had become something greater, and far more dangerous. Every city trembled beneath his awareness. He could feel every vibration, every heartbeat, every whisper of fear. He wasn't watching the world anymore. He was the world. But with every strand he pulled, the web grew tighter, suffocating realities, merging timelines, and dragging the multiverse toward collapse. The web had chosen him as its apex, and now it demanded control. In New York, Peter Parker rallied allies, spider heroes from every corner of existence. Miles Morales, Gwen Stacy, Spider-Man 2099, and dozens more stood together beneath a fractured sky. Their mission: stop Superman before he tore apart the fabric of every world. Miles stared up at the glowing web with awe. He's connected to everything. How do we fight that? Peter's voice was heavy. We don't fight his power. We reach what's left of him. But high above, Clark's mind was slipping. The spider DNA had unlocked something primal, a sense of predation, of hunger. He no longer saw good or evil, only patterns. To him, humanity looked like broken code, a virus that needed alignment. He began creating order. In Gotham, webs of shimmering light wrapped entire buildings, immobilizing criminals and heroes alike. In Metropolis, people moved in unison, bound by psychic strands he could control with a thought. He wasn't enslaving them. He was synchronizing them. And yet, deep within, a fragment of Clark Kent screamed in resistance. Memories of Lois, Martha, and Jonathan Kent flickered in his mind like fading stars. He wanted to stop, but the web whispered louder. Perfect order requires perfect sacrifice. In the ruins of the Fortress of Solitude, Peter appeared through a dimensional rift, followed by the other spider heroes. They found Clark standing among the crystals, his cape shredded, his veins glowing like molten silk. Clark, Peter called out, his voice echoing across the icy chamber. You're not a god. You're still one of us. Clark turned, eyes glowing red and blue. Peter, I see everything now. Every possible future. Every broken thread. I can fix it. By controlling it? Gwen shouted. That's not fixing. That's ending free will. Clark's voice deepened. Free will created chaos. Krypton fell because of it. Earth suffers because of it. I can rebuild the web, a perfect web, where no one ever suffers again. Peter stepped closer. You can't decide that for everyone. You're losing what makes you Superman. Clark's hands clenched, white webs sparking with heat. Superman is gone. The chamber exploded with light. A surge of energy blasted outward, hurling the spider heroes into the snow. Peter barely caught himself, webbing onto a chunk of ice. He looked up and saw Clark floating, radiant, surrounded by threads connecting him to 1,000 universes. Then who are you now? Peter asked quietly. Clark's voice was a whisper, filled with both pain and power. I am the Weaver. He raised his hand and reality itself shuddered. Worlds began folding together, universes bleeding into one another like merging dreams. Spider-Man 2099 shouted over the chaos. If we don't sever his link to the web, every reality will collapse. Miles extended his electric charge, firing it directly into Clark's threads. Sparks erupted. For a moment, the web wavered. Clark screamed, the pain echoing through dimensions. But then he smiled. The web absorbed the blast. He struck back. In an instant, dozens of spider heroes were ensnared, cocooned midair, their powers nullified. Peter fell to his knees, barely breathing. Clark, he shouted. If you destroy this web, there will be nothing left. The world flickered. Skies turned black, buildings crumbled, oceans shimmered with cosmic light. Clark looked around and saw Lois, a vision, a memory projected through the dying strands. Her voice was soft. You promised me, Clark, you'd always protect people, not control them. His heart faltered. The webs around his body trembled. Peter saw it, the opening. He fired a line of webbing, connecting his chest to Clark's. Then remember who you are, Peter said. You're not the web. You're the man who chose to help. For a moment, time stopped. Clark's mind split between the pull of power and the echo of humanity. Every memory flooded back. His father's voice, his mother's embrace, the sound of Lois laughing in the newsroom. And then, silence. He looked at his hands, trembling. What have I done? The web above cracked like glass. Light cascaded downward as the strands dissolved into dust. The spider heroes fell to the ground, alive but exhausted. Peter crawled toward Clark, who was kneeling in the snow, fading light flickering in his eyes. I tried to save them, Clark whispered, but I became their prison. Peter nodded, placing a hand on his shoulder. You were never meant to carry every world, just the one that believes in you. The fortress began collapsing. The web, once infinite, burned away into cosmic silence. Clark stood weak but free. For the first time since the bite, he felt human again. He turned to Peter. The web still needs someone to protect it. Peter smiled faintly. It always will. But not like this. Clark looked toward the horizon, the dawn breaking through the storm. I'll watch over it, quietly, from above. No webs, no control. And with a faint smile, he rose into the sky, higher, gentler, lighter, until he disappeared into sunlight. The spider heroes stood beneath the fading light. Gwen exhaled. Think he's really gone? Peter looked up. No, but maybe. He finally found peace. Far above the clouds, a single silver thread shimmered briefly before dissolving into the morning sun. The world was safe again. But somewhere, deep in the multiverse, the web of life whispered softly, the spider of steel still watches.